You're good?
Let's roll, baby.
Hello, professionals. Welcome. Another episode, People First, Then Construction. Jonathan Sinelli here. And take a moment to look around. We are in a phenomenal setting. The Construction Life with Manny. If you haven't yet connected, you got to take a look at this. The Construction Life is phenomenal. Manny's like a wonderful human being. And life is about relationships. Life is about partnerships. Life is about getting the right people in orbit. And that's why we're here today. This is the first of many coming to you from the Construction Life studio. Manny is in the space. We may or may not hear from him. I wanted to acknowledge that because it's super cool. You know, when we talk about life, oftentimes in business, there's many individuals that talk about competition and competitors being better than your competition. I say bullshit. Connect with like-minded individuals because that makes you a better human being. And that is why we're here today with a great friend, Revalate. Nick from Revalate, him and his partners and the team behind them are phenomenal human beings. Revalate happens to be the show sponsor today, and it's a pleasure to have Nick here today. You'll see all his gear. You'll see Revalate up on screen. You're going to say, who the hell is Revalate? Why are they here? And what the hell do they do? We're going to unpack that. For starters, I want you to think of this. Think of a V8 engine that's operating at a prestigious pace, and you're growing and you're getting faster and faster and faster, and yet you want to accelerate even faster. You have that big block SRT, 4.6 seconds, and that's not enough for you. You want more. Sound familiar? Because when we take this into the business world, this is where Revalate takes that 4.6 seconds and turbocharges it to 2.1. You want to know how? There are so many different things to get into. But it wouldn't be fair for me to talk all about it, so I'm going to pivot right over. Nick, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you here. Thanks for being in this space. This is phenomenal. This is exciting.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man.
This
So
is awesome.
I could talk forever, and you know that's not going to serve everybody well. Sometimes
I don't know. That introduction was pretty damn good.
Tell us, Revalate. What the hell is Revalate? Why should people care? How did it start? Like, what's the story, man?
Okay, so the story. My partner and I, our entire family, background, construction, put on a hat, the hard one, pick up a shovel, pick up a tool, get ready to get dirty. Let's make it happen. In the development of our careers, one of the key things that mattered most to us was being able to go to sleep at night, knowing that at the end of the day, we weren't selling a bunch of bullshit. So when we started out building Revalate together, the core focus was being able to change a paradigm, change a narrative. Now, I'm sure you hear this a lot. You do hear it a lot. A lot of different companies go after the same, shiny ball. But we tried to do it from a different approach. It was, sure, we could have got into healthcare. We could have got into financial services. We could have got into the government space. But we wanted to focus on an industry we knew, which was construction. And this is an industry that serves as the backbone to everything we know, everything we love, and yet, for one reason or another, isn't given the attention from a business development standpoint that it deserves. So Revalate was born to focus on the key areas of business required, demanded from a sole proprietor, corporation, partnership, whatever it happens to be, and the infrastructural components needed to survive, thrive, and grow in a space where, it's sad to say it, but so many guys are, I can go to Home Depot, pick up a hammer, I got a truck, and I'm going to start a business. Quality isn't what it was. And these are the competitors that they're fighting against and trying to figure out, well, I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm losing business. I've been doing it for 30 years and I'm still stuck where I was 10 years ago. What the hell am I doing? Revalate focuses on two key areas, earning power and enterprise value. Earning power meaning what kind of lifestyle can what I've built in a business provide me? Enterprise value is I've been doing this for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. My kids don't want it, or they want it, and I want to be able to hand something off and know that if I pull the chute, I'm not handing off a lemon. So we'll go in, identify all the major sore spots that are preventing real earning power, real enterprise value from being captured, clean it up together, and get that company back to where they always wanted to be.
Thank you. So it sounds like we're talking about a couple of key things here. One is sort of growth, and the second thing is exit plans.
Essentially, I mean, when we start working with companies, the first thing we speak about is a minimum requirement. One being mindset, meaning you want to improve and you believe that that's possible. And two, you want to grow. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go from earning $2 million to $200 million. It means that I want to do what I'm doing now, and I want to know that I don't have to worry when I wake up in the morning. And that's something that is consistent, that I'm going to a place of work that is exciting me, that's keeping me going, that's, again, coming back to a lifestyle, not only for me, but for my team, a place, a culture, that type of thing.
This is huge. So we're talking about flipping the script on sort of what naturally and organically happens, where you've got the guy who, or girl, but you've got the professional who's been doing this for 25, 35, 45 years and becomes sort of complacent in life, right? We go through those sort of ebbs and flows of cycles, and there are times where at the end of the year we can look and go, okay, fine, we grew 2%, 5%, 10%, 20, 50%. It doesn't necessarily make a difference. The question becomes, and this is where Revalate sort of steps in, is how are we growing? Why are we growing? Are we growing in the right way?
I think what we've learned in business, in our development, is everything comes back to time. And this is what we focus on. It's how are we spending our time? Now, time translates to a lot of different things. It translates to how are we enjoying our life? It translates to how are we making money? It translates to how are we spending money? It translates to how are the people that are helping me achieve a particular outcome spending my money and spending their time? And once we straighten out that particular component, everything else clicks into place. And that's the piece that we focus on most.
Okay, so let's paint a vividly clear picture for the guys and girls listening out there. And I want to start here. I'm going to start with the less than desirable outcome. Who is Revalate not for? Talk to me about the person who is like,
I have a hard time with that.
No, listen. Let's be.
My partner, if he was listening right now, he'd be jumping.
This is where it's different, though. I want to strip back the bullshit. We're talking vulnerably. We're talking authentically. Like, listen. Here's the person that we're not interested in because you know what? You're gonna do what you're gonna do. We all. Business is so much more than transactional, and there are many people out there who haven't yet adopted that mindset, aren't yet ready to accept it, and are quite content with sort of their growth trajectory or their business plans. Not everybody wants massive growth. Let's face it.
So I think the again, I'm having a real hard time saying it because again, the model was not built to cast anyone away, but again, if I was to say for a minimum requirement to work with Revalate, you have to have an improvement mindset. Not necessarily, again, it's not a function of the numbers. You want to grow by 100,000 instead of 1 million. That's not our prerogative. We're not going to say, sorry, that's not enough. We're going to push you towards improving, focusing on that, and everything else clicks into place. As long as you come to the table with that mindset, we'll work with you. Everything short of that, it's a very brief conversation.
But that's the stuff I'm talking about, right? Because you can go anywhere and somebody's going to sell you the next widget, the next software, the next tool that's designed to save the day. But what you're talking about is something different. You're talking about a level of integrity and commitment. It's like going to work with a personal trainer in the gym. Hey, man, I want to lose 100 pounds. Cool. You got to show up here 5 days a week, work your ass off, sweat, and it's not just about showing up for this 1 hour 5 days a week. It's what are you doing behind the scenes? What is your lifestyle? What do you actually, when you're alone by yourself, what are your thoughts? That's what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
That's where Revalate comes into play.
The difference I would say to that particular analogy, because it's a good one. We serve as, we don't expect you to lift the weight by yourself, which which really sets us apart from a traditional consultancy. We don't, here's a bunch of tools, tricks, advice. Now your team implement it. We're going to come in and we're going to act as your ops team to now work on all of these elements that need to improve with your team, guide them, practice them with it. We know, I think everybody can attest to the fact that it's one thing to learn something new, but if it's not practiced, old habits die hard. Complacency kicks in, and it's that much easier to go back to what you know and is safe than to try something new and keep practicing it and looking for progress and looking for improvement. And that's where the real rubber hits the road. It's one thing to build a process and a system the way that it needs to so your organization can thrive. It's another thing to practice it. And by having that team, that culture element, that company cohesiveness there, making sure that we're paying attention to the things that are sliding backwards and pushing them forward so that the focus is always progress, that's what makes a difference.
That's huge, that word there, progress. Because there are a boatload of other companies or organizations out there that will, and I'm saying this out of respect and reality check, they'll flip you sort of the menu item. Okay, you need this, right? What if I don't? I'm a unique human being. You're a unique human being. Every person on this planet is a unique human being in their way. So there's no one size fits all. Even when you buy clothes, it's like, okay, well, you're a medium. Well, are you a medium or are you like, a medium small or a medium large, right? But rather than sort of volleying over, here's the widget to fix it, follow this protocol. What you're speaking of is very different. You're talking about operations. You're talking about processes. You're talking about cultural shifts. You're talking about, it starts with the ability to say, like, I actually want to get better. And I don't want to just check the box to say, yeah, we invested in growth.
And that's a hard thing. It's not easy to embrace change or look for it, to say that maybe I'm not doing what I need to be doing, and then seek out an answer and a solution in real time, knowing that I got to wake up in the morning and I got to make money, because there's no mixing words about it. If you're not making money, your guys aren't working. If your guys aren't working, and the vicious cycle continues. So I understand it. We understand it. And that's why, we act as that team, because it's one thing to want to fix it. It's another thing to find the time. And that goes back to that time element. There's only so many hours in a day. And trying to juggle what the average, firm owner is dealing with, it's we use words like capacity. You factor an average day for a team lead or a PM is maybe 10 hours. If it's really busy, it's 12 hours. And really, they're working 18 hours in that 12-hour time frame, and they're trying to find more time to jam more in because more shit is happening that they can't control. This is what having that ops team relieves. It's that, okay, I'm not the only one that has to worry about this shit anymore.
So what about this scenario, for example, right? Because there's a lot of our audience out there, I'm sure their attention is peaked, and they're still not sure. They're like, well, I don't know, Jonathan and Nick, if I want that, SRT engine supercharged, right? I'm not ready for the Trackhawk yet. I want not the V8. I think I just want to coast a little bit. So what do we say then? Like, what if they don't want the V8 engine, this turbocharged? What do we do next? But they want growth. So let's, here's the parameters.
I'm having a hard time picturing a world where they don't want that truck.
Me too. But here's the thing right now, right? We've got, yes, I want to grow. I don't know how much I want to grow. In fact, I don't even know where my blind spots are. What's next?
I think that's the important part. Goals are they're a real fun thing to speak about. Everybody wants to be the next, Elon Musk or Ellis Don, for the sake of,
Sure.
of keeping it about the industry we're focusing on here. And those goals are fantastic. Ambition is wonderful. The starting point to it all, because everything is possible, the starting point to it all is understanding what the problem is.
Right.
We can set goals, we can talk numbers, but it doesn't really mean much until we understand what's preventing you from achieving anything near that. And that's where the conversation starts with us. We start by understanding, where those red flags are, what's hurting your ability to earn, what's hurting your ability to keep track of time. Because if you're not paying attention to time will find a place to put itself, and it's not going to be a place you want it to be. And once we understand those answers well, then we can look at the numbers. Then we can say, okay, well, this is how well you've performed with this system. If we remove these particular elements that are dragging your ability to drive in more, what does that look like for the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And then we work at it together.
Holy shit. So this is like a holistic approach. This is, what's exciting about me is this takes off the pressure of the executives, the folks who started the business for different reasons. I want to pivot there for a moment, actually, right? Because obviously we know this is the bullshit people don't want to talk about. Like, businesses are designed to make money. So anybody who's out there cutting contractors down because they think they're making too much money, that's a different conversation that I've chatted about, that I know Manny's chatted about, that many of us have chatted about, and I'm acknowledging Manny because we're here again. And this is real, folks. Like, the bullshit of contractors makes too much money is pisses me off more than anything else. And that's why we're in business for. So, what Revalate's taught, what we're talking about here, what you just mentioned, and it struck a chord clearly, that Revalate can come in and we can alleviate that pressure from the guy or the girl on the top who started the business for a different reason, and today might be in a different position to say, what's next? Because if we don't grow, we know there's two solutions. You're either you're growing or you're dying. So you choose, right?
Yeah. The way we look at that, it's twofold. If you look at the chain of command, a lot of people get stuck from the top to bottom, but they forget about the bottom to top. And in order for a proper chain of command to stay a chain, a strong chain, I'm sure you've heard the expression, your weakest link is your downfall. The strongest connection to anything is your weakest link. And to properly find something that we speak to a lot, company cohesiveness, that culture, that place that everybody wants to work with, because they bleed with you, they bleed for you. It doesn't just start from the top. It starts from the bottom to the top, to the top, to the bottom, to the middle and back, and everything in between. And understanding all of that as an owner, that's a big shift in this particular industry, because I know my grandparents, I know my parents, I know our team, our families. A lot of talk is around, you can't trust anybody in this industry. If you don't do it yourself, it's never going to get done. Nobody cares. And yeah, a lot of times they're partially right. But that doesn't mean that that's the only answer. It means that we need to understand why they're right and what we can do as a company, if you want to succeed, what you can do to change the narrative, to make that company strong, company cohesiveness. And it's typically starting from expectation. A lot of times, the chain of command, the top level guys, they're looking at their crew and they're saying, okay, I got a bunch of guys, hopefully they show up today and I don't got to worry about anything being broken. Now the guys in the field are looking at it and say, I'm not really sure what I got to do today. Why not start the conversation from expectation? What are you expecting out of this? And what am I expecting out of this? And how do we find that happy medium? Now what happens is we're not wasting time on the tools. We're not wasting time in the office. Expectations are aligned. Everybody knows what they need to do, when they need to do it, why they need to do it. And they start working at things together. What does that do for the company? Now your guys are happy about going to work because they're not worried that their boss thinks they stink. Now the boss is happy to go to work because now he's not worried that his guys aren't going to show up. You start adding up all of the time, because it all comes back to time, that saves over time. And now it's not just a function of finding new work anymore, because now your guys are bleeding your colors. Every time you talk about it, they're hearing great things because the guys on site are saying great things. And it becomes a full circle organization that is working in a direction that I think any business owner wants it to be.
Okay, a couple of questions buzzing around here, right? Because that all sounds pretty cool, right? And we've heard that sort of rhetoric often enough. And I'm bringing that up purposely. There are many individuals out there who maybe believe in their own mind. Yeah, I already have that. We have a great culture. We have this. We have, and become dismissive about that, right? How do we know?
There's your point. I mean, everybody hates to be tested. What's the worst thing that could happen if you're tested with that? Try it. Because the only answer is you're either right or you're wrong and you weren't paying attention to what you were wrong to. And either way, it's a win. And that's how we propose it, because ultimately, we don't really need long to figure out what's working and what's not. And as long as you're brave enough to figure that out, well, you're onto something.
Actually, I love that. Thank you for that. Something sort of jumped into my brain, and it's worth sharing. There was a show, and I don't even know if it still exists. There was a show called Undercover Boss, where sort of somebody from the organization, called the executive president or whoever it was, would actually go and get in the trenches, right? And I'm going to say this is with my biases in place, that sometimes there are moments where I feel construction has deviated so far from that. We've got guys who have done it for 30, 40, 50 years and think that the way we did it 30, 40 years ago still works today. But if you never get out in the trenches and work side by side, then how the hell do you even know what's going on? Right? So
Yeah,
very interesting, very, very interesting point. And I'm going to say this, right, without going too far, but if we learned anything through sort of the COVID experience, that was sort of it. I remember having some real tough conversation with some jerks out there saying, we want to get guys on site. I'm like, listen, man, you meet me on site, I'll meet you there. If you're comfortable working in that atmosphere, we have no problem doing that, right? So I'm saying this because this is real life. I'm living this. We're all living this. Any construction professional out there knows that sometimes it's bullshit, right? There's a huge disconnect. And what we're seeing here in Revalate is like, we'll help unpack that. We'll help get into that. And then we're going to offer insight, right?
And take it one step further. So here's the insight, and then here's the action plan, and here's the team that's going to take it off your plate, because it needs to get done one way or another. It's either you going to do it or outsource it. And realistically speaking, again, back to time, if we show you how much you got to do on a daily basis, and then add everything on top that's going to take to bring your system where it needs to be, it's going to be that much easier to go back doing the old shit and not, progressing in the direction that you want to. So, yeah, for sure.
Okay, here's a question then. You've been doing this long enough. Is there common problems that show up, recurring problems? And what's the main problem that shows up, or the top three?
I would say it's one.
Okay.
Time. I'll say it. It's going to be a reoccurring segment in this particular conversation. It's how do we track it? How do we manage it? What do we do with it? Time is money. That saying is as relevant as it always has been. And I'm not suggesting now you get people wearing stopwatches. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But at the end of the day, what are we doing to make the company money? What are we doing to work together so that I'm responsible for my task, you're responsible for your task, and we're working at it together so that the net result is efficiency, quality, and we're not sitting around doing nothing. This is something that is completely overlooked. Again, top to bottom chain of command. Guys in the office are doing the same thing. Administrative staff doing the same thing. And it's not saying they're wasting time. Let me be clear about that. I'm not suggesting they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs, looking at their watch and saying, I'm getting paid for this. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What they're doing is they're struggling with their day-to-day task because it's never been built according to how the company wants them to perform it. It's been okay, you've been hired to do a task. You got your tools, you got a way to get there, okay, go. And now they have been left to their own devices to read management's mind and perform a task based on what they hope management wants them to do. What we're showing is the benefit of now taking that process, that approach to delivering a service, formalizing it, standardizing it, and now practicing it as a company unit So then, rather than you having to worry that your guys are going to show up and do the job that you expect them to do, you can give them a blueprint to say, this is how we do it at this organization, now go do it. And if they don't, you have a benchmark to look at and improve from, because that's the other thing. You used an analogy earlier about being in the gym with a personal trainer. The first thing they do is they take out a clipboard and they set your benchmark levels. Lift the weight. How much do you weigh? What's your body fat? Now, as you progress, that's what they're looking at. Have you been progressing? But if you don't have the benchmark, if you don't have the foundation to build everything on top of, what do you got? And that's what I would say is the one that stands out the most.
Oh, that's super cool, right? Because as you were talking, it resonated. How many times do we have human beings that are put into positions and, hey, I gave you all the tools and, tap out, right? And then two things happen. They either, oftentimes they suffer in silence, right? They're doing enough to stay employed and not necessarily enough to be the best they can be. And then at the top down, you've got guys who are saying, and this is real, folks, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, whether it happens, and most times it doesn't happen in public, but it happens behind closed doors. Oh, everybody's shit. Well, based on what information now? So now you've really unpacked that. Like, we're going to help assess the benchmarks and go from there. Okay, so how long does this process take? Like, what can I expect? I'm coming in. I've now contacted you and said, Nick, we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
We want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Help. How long? What am I in for?
So to get a handle on the areas of priority, we need a few weeks together. From there, I think you brought up something that described our project delivery or our process best. It's not a one size fits all. So it's hard for me to say this is exactly how long it's going to take to get you back. But on average, we're working together anywhere from 3 to 12 months.
Interesting.
Now, let me, to add on top of that, we also built this thing so that we don't tie anybody down. What that means is you've presented us with a challenge. We've identified where the real money is going and how to prevent it and how to change it. Now we've come in, started working at it together, and we've changed the narrative. Your business is thriving and in a direction that you want it to. So we've given you all the tools to now take it and run with it. Then the choice is yours. You can keep us around as your operations team to make sure that nothing falls, or you can have your team do it. Now, realistically speaking, we built that part of the program to make sure that we're there, because we know from a time and money perspective, it will never make sense for you and your team to take what we've brought your system to and run with. But you have the option.
Thank you. So you volley the autonomy back. So you've clearly identified one of the massive pain points, which is time. Curiosity thing buzzing around my brain says, all right, Nick, then take us down a pathway where we can illuminate for our folks out there maybe a couple of blind spots that most professionals don't even know they don't know, right? They're doing their day-to-day, I use the word, routines, habits, rituals, and they don't even know that this is a blind spot hindering our organization. Can you help illuminate one, two?
Administrative support.
What does that mean?
The admin role is a function that, when built properly, can act as your communication highway. Now, for anybody who's, done road work, it can either go smoothly or cause traffic and backup for a long time. So when it's built to do a job from the ground up properly, that person, those people become the backbone of your organization, the backbone of your operation. They are not people, they are not roles to simply throw paper at. They can effectively change the way you and your entire team collaborate and communicate. When built properly, it's game changing.
Thank you. That's huge, right? I love what you said there, because there's a role that many times has been, I'm going to call it out, like a less than rule, It's been a dismissive role. It's like, okay, we have to fill an administrative role, and it becomes not regarded as a high touch point, which is tremendously the exact opposite, the way you just described it. So, all right, here's paint this whole picture now, and let's keep it confidential to respect everybody's names. But take us through a scenario where an organization that's in your mind that's sort of buzzing around that says, this is where this organization was when they contacted us. Here's where they got to. Here's the timeline. Like, paint that whole picture. And like, let's be vividly clear. This organization contacted you with what in mind? They said, Revalate boys, here's my problem, help. Somebody come to mind.
I think I got one. I mean, I'm trying to give it start to finish and capture more of a holistic situation, because there's a lot of different conversations we're involved with right now. So one comes to mind, and this was we're still working with the company. Originally, the conversation, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking about how many times the conversation's changed now. But originally, he came to us looking to grow the company, get it to a particular level, and make it sustainable, consistent. So this was a function of being able to focus on driving in new work, which means that I needed to build my ops team, build my management team so that I can focus on doing what I do well, which is driving a new business. And that's where the whole thing started. So we looked at his entire infrastructure, understood where the gaps and weaknesses are, started building them together. Midway through, no, I think I don't want to do this part. I want to do this part now. So I instead of me serving this function, we need to find this function, and I'll take care of this function. So we, pivot in real time. Okay, well, we already have certain systems in place, so to plug you back into it and now build this out doesn't make sense. Long story short, what ends up happening is we built the function for the employer, the owner of the firm, so that he can do what he wants with it. Because he's at a stage in life where it's, do I stay? Do I slow down and bring somebody in to run the day-to-day and just take a paycheck? Do I pull the chute and do I sell? And what was important from our perspective was to be able to build an environment that gave him the option. Whether or not he wanted to do this for another 5 years, he had the infrastructure to support the decision. Whether or not he wanted to pull the chute, he had everything lined up to pull the chute and maximize his exit. And now we're at that point where it's, okay, well, let's look at the intricacies. We've built the infrastructure, and now we want to add this role because the company has gotten to a particular level in improvement that we can start looking at different areas, because what we were focused on 8 months ago, 12 months ago, is not irritating us anymore. So now let's start tackling these other areas incrementally. And I'm happy to say that we're working together, and it's still fun. If he knows who I'm talking about, he's a ball breaker, but I love him, and but it's been a hell of a project to be a part of.
Thank you for sharing that, and that it sort of pulled on some of my heartstrings a little bit, because there's some stuff that doesn't get talked about where we've got a lot of eyes on the leadership teams, big, small, medium-sized organizations. It's like, okay, the guys at the top, they got their shit together. They know the growth plan. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to stick to the plan. Until you don't, right? And part of being a human being is sort of growing, adapting, pivoting. There's no such thing as a straight line trajectory. All the stuff we see on social media is like, oh yeah, you got to grind and grind and grind and grind. Growth is not like that. Growth is not an upward trajectory. Growth does this, and then it bottoms out, and then it comes back up. Like, the actual line to growth and to becoming better as a human being, as an organization, sucks at times, sucks at many times. And yet, optically from the outside in, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, the guys in growth at the top know what the hell they're doing. No, they don't. They might have an idea.
You know that saying, and forgive me if I'm butchering it, but I think it was Mike Tyson that said it. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Right? That's this industry. It's unforgiving. And like Mike Tyson, he had the right for part of his career. He had the right crew in his corner, bandaging him up and getting him back on his feet and punching people out. But that's the idea here. It's building in backup so that your business is focusing on the things that you've always wanted it to do.
And that's exciting, right? That's what, when you said that, I was like, holy smokes, that's the trigger, folks. There's the Revalate advantage. It's like, okay, I think I want to head this way. Okay, so let's build it that way until, especially the story you just described. This individual thought he wanted to go one way, metaphorically got punched in the face, pivoted, was maybe down for a 7 count, got back up and says, no, guys, now that the stars are clear, I want to go a different way. All right, well, the good news is we can bob and weave there rather quickly, right? Okay, well, I want to go a different way, right? Rather than, we're not, this is not going to be a 7-round knockout where we're going to, maximize the company and sell. We're actually going to go the distance here, and we're going to see where we trend to next. I'm using all these metaphors for a reason because this is business, right? This is the stuff that doesn't happen. And we look at it like, okay, great, we land at more work. Yeah, at what margin? 0%, 1%, 2%? I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but we know that shit happens, right?
Yeah, man. It's and it's also being able to have a second set of eyes, a third set of eyes, throwing ideas again back to that collaborative environment that we bring to the table. It's not coming at it from a take it or leave it approach. It's we respect what you've done in this industry. Now let's make sure that you stay there. Let's make sure that you continue to grow. What you've built is something to be celebrated, not to be closed up and forgotten about, because again, this industry is unforgiving, and being able to have that team next to you, beside you, behind you, however you prefer it, makes it proactive. It makes tackling an industry that is as big as this one a little bit easier to do, because now it's not just me, and if I don't do this, nobody else cares.
And again, now you're touching on so many different things that excite me, because we live in an industry where there's a very much a dog-eat-dog world. I'm going to be better than the next guy, and I'm going to crush him, and I want to push the next guy down. And what you're saying from the Revalate standpoint is, okay, team, we're bringing in practices we've seen along the way. We're helping you. We're providing insight information, because guess what? Your pain points are no different than, the next guy over there. They're just packaged differently. They're in a different vehicle. Maybe it's not that big block V8 engine. Maybe it's that, turbocharged V6. I don't know. It's packaged differently, right? So rather than constantly looking over our shoulder, who the hell's coming down next? Never mind your competition. How are we getting better, right? That's part of the reason we're here today in the Construction Life studio with Manny, because it's not about competition. It's about aligning yourself with the right people to get better.
That requires a mindset shift. You have to appreciate that if you're in business and you've been trying to do something on your own, the first thing that you hear, as soon as you get your incorporation number and you're ready to rock and roll, one of the first things that's in the back of your mind is competition. How do I get better than the next guy? What do I need to do to stand apart, and all the other fun stuff? The reality is you will already have. You need to understand how to unpack you. The business you've grown isn't a carbon copy of anybody else. It's what you brought to the table day in, day out, and built out of your ideas, your ability to be unique in that respective space. And that's a foundation that can be built on if, again, it's being looked at from the right mindset.
I love that, right? It's here, folks, here it is, right? Look inward first. You got to look inward. That's exactly what you said. In the construction industry is very outward focused. I have to armor up. I have to stand up like I can, take 12 consecutive punches to the face. No, man. Sometimes you can take one and you're done. So you have to look internally and say, well, what are we actually doing? Our shit stinks too, right? How many events can you think of that you go to where it's like everybody smiles and cheers? Hey, we're doing great. We're doing great. Bullshit. You know what doesn't get talked about? The stuff that's not working. Because you're grinding out every day thinking, hey, our objective is to make money and grow. And then you get to the end of the year or midway through the year and you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you're going, what the hell are we doing wrong?
That's why podcasts like this help so much, because when you're spending 8-10 hours a day trying to figure it out and nobody's giving you the answer, having a little bit of because there's a lot of guys out there that, feel the way that you do, Jonathan, and can't talk about it because it's not that kind of industry. You can't sit around, sing kumbaya, and what the hell am I doing here, guys? Somebody give me an answer. It's dog eat dog. So being able to find a space that gives you a little bit of a glimmer of hope that you can do it too, and a space that celebrates an ability to take a talent, make it your own, and build something out of it so that you can live the life that you want to. It's game changing.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Revalate, for flipping the script on that. We're not talking about a one-time, one-size-fits-all tool. There are some great tools out there that help one aspect of our industry get better. That's not the solution. There's a holistic approach. Like we're talking about peeling back the layers, talking about the uncomfortable stuff, get into the stuff that maybe you don't want to see, or maybe you see not enough because you choose not to, or you don't even know it exists. I mean, there's blind spots out there. There's people who are doing the same thing over and over. There are so many human beings out there that are excellent at their craft.
And that's another important note. I mean, we don't come in and say, hey, guys, these are the tools you got to use. We come in and look at the tools that you're using and figure out how to make them work for you better. So it's forgive the tortured pun here, but it's about having the right tool, but more importantly, it's knowing how to use it and using it so that it's something that can be delivered consistently.
Okay, so this sparks another thought in my head. I'm going to volley this one out there. Is there one or two, or is there something on top of mind that surfaces for you and shows up when I ask this question? The question is there something that construction professionals are doing today that's no longer relevant?
No longer relevant? I think it's their approach to a team.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you build the right team, you can trust people. If you don't, if you're building it from a singular mindset, this is about me, you'll always have to worry about people stabbing you in the back. There was a time maybe where it didn't matter who you trusted, who you had on site. They were of a different caliber. I don't think that narrative is relevant anymore. I think it's a function of what you're bringing to the table as an organization and accepting the responsibility for what comes back.
Tell me more about that, about accepting responsibility. What do you mean by that?
That's a big one. Back again, top to bottom, bottom to top chain of command. That's a problem that we see a lot of, accepting responsibility or taking the reins for a particular function or activity, task. Nobody wants to do it. And I don't think it's because they don't want to do it. It's because they've never been given a safe space to try.
Holy shit.
Right? It's don't fuck up. I don't know if I can use that kind of language.
Absolutely.
But that's a lot of pressure to put on anybody, top to bottom, bottom to top. Why not say, hey, here's how you need to do it, and don't fuck up. And then when they fuck up, because we're still human, they have something to learn from and practice with. And you've brought that approach to running a business. Because one way or another, mistakes are going to happen. There's no such thing as perfect. If you can get rid of that from your vocabulary, you'll do amazing. But what we do know is mistakes are going to happen. So how do you create a controlled environment so those mistakes don't cost you money, but more importantly, build a team that you can be proud of, to work with every day, and they can do the same when they come into work?
Yeah, so you've said so many fundamental things here, and it all sort of piggybacks me to psychological safety. But getting into that, we hear often, "Well, I have a great team," and a team is one of those fluffy words is thrown out or thrown around today. Like, I'm so proud of my team. You're still taking it inward. I'm so proud of my team, our team. Sometimes when I shut up, seriously, shut up. Because what you're talking about is human beings. It's inevitable. Like, if we're not screwing up, then, some say you don't try hard enough. Some say whatever rhetoric and narrative you want to associate to that, we're going to screw up because we're human beings. We have good days. We have bad days. It's not about not screwing up. It's about the recovery. Mm-hmm. And you just define that. Like, okay, so let's plan for errors.
I had a conversation recently with somebody we're working with, and they told me the story about how they came into their business. Their family built it over 35 years of work, and it was that transition. Okay, boys, it's your turn. Take it, run with it. But don't trust nobody, because somebody's going to fuck you. And this was I remember this conversation like it was yesterday, because they said, but why does it have to be that way? What are we missing? I can't do everything. How am I going to grow this thing and keep all my cards close to the chest without playing with anybody? It's so impractical. I don't know how they did it for 30 years. Is that the only way? And now looking at it after working with them and building it out and figuring out who those key players are that understand what the company's mission is and what they're trying to achieve as a unit, and it's showing them that that's not the only way. And it's because of the mindset that they've brought to the table on a day in, day out basis. It's, guys, we're here to build this company together. Guys, we all have a job to do. Let's do it and have fun doing it. It's not a, guys, go to work, don't fuck up. If you fuck up, you're on your ass. And don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that you let people step over you. By no means. But that's where the systems help, because now you're paying attention to who's actually there to help you accomplish a mission, or who's there to make things that much harder.
Well, sorry, and that's really exciting what you just said, right? We're not here to maybe the word is negate accountability. No, we're here to say we're going to have high expectations, love you to death, and by the way, we're going to hold you accountable because you have integrity and you understand you've agreed to this sort of these boundaries. Here's how to do the task. Mm-hmm. Here's what happens when. Right, and whether this document works today or not, it's a holistic document that's going to grow and evolve over time. Right, this is very different, and this changes the narrative of all our people are shit. Well, are they? Sometimes you got to stand in the mirror and reflect that question back. What am I doing wrong? So, thank you for all this. I want to sort of, I want to challenge your thinking a little bit here, and I'm going to ask you some really questions that are going to paint the picture of Revalate holistically and also really illuminate who you are as a human being. So the first one is going to be about Revalate. Like, you've talked so much about this. We've spent a lot of time bobbing and weaving through it. Tremendously different. I mean, this is huge. So what now? What? Like, what's the long-term vision of Revalate? What are we doing this for? That's stacked questions, but pick any one of those. Long-term vision.
To be the most innovative, progressive name in the space.
Why bother? Who gives a shit, though? That's what I want to know. Like, why are we doing this for?
Well, that's a personal mission. Developing in my career, one of the hardest things I've had to overcome was the reason I make money.
Okay.
My grandparents, at the end of the day, what do they have? Their pension and a bunch of back pain and knee pain. Nobody came to visit. Nobody cared. It didn't really matter, because at the end of the day, after 47 years of busting their ass, they did what they thought was right to take care of their family. And that was the end of it. That was okay, on to the next one. And that terrifies me. If that's what this whole thing is about, if at the end of the day it's about making money, paying some bills, eating a little bit of food and then kicking the can, what the fuck is that about? So, I put together a team of people that understand that life can be more, And every day we go after it. And that's what it's about.
Thank you. Thanks for painting that picture. So, you've clearly identified the long-term vision of Revalate. And more importantly, you've identified why I started, what the purpose of it behind it, who you are as a human being. Now, fun thought, 10 words or less. The coolest thing about Revalate is what?
What am I going to do with 10 words?
All right, you can have 12 or 15 if you need. Coolest thing about Revalate's what?
Our culture. I need to. Our culture.
What do you mean by that? What makes it unique?
Our mission is one from a place of progress. We don't believe in perfection. We believe in progress. And as long as we're making incremental improvements, we've done our job for the day. What we've also realized is that there's a lot of cool knowledge out there when you look at it, when you look for it, and when you start plugging the pieces together. This is why culture is important. Because if you approach a project or a conversation, a team from that perspective, the magic that happens is endless. Because now you got guys and gals in the room that have been through so much shit that now they can put it on the table, put it all on the table, and know that it's being put on the table to be built together so that the outcome is something of a culture. Now we're working at it together. And the outcome is really cool to see.
I got it. That's huge. And that's very different than some cultures out there where the first thing is who fucked up, right? How do we pin the blame? Where it's striving for sort of an end game, or it's striving for that word you use, perfection, versus okay, how are we better today than we were yesterday? What kind of progress? Where are we trending? So progress. Mm-hmm. So I got that. Thank you. All right, so talk to us about a book you've read in the last 3 to 5 years that really had an impact on you, is worth sharing with the audience out there.
2 come to mind.
Okay.
Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read it, read it. It'll change your life if you let it. And the 80-20 rule.
80-20, yeah.
By Richard Koch. So the first one opens your mind up to what's possible if you believe that it's possible. It talks about having the right environment, making the right environment, because environments don't create themselves. It talks about developing the right networks and the right team and keeping the right people around you, the people that want to see you succeed, not the ones that smile, say congratulations, and then talk shit, but the ones that are in the shit with you, trying to help you find an answer, because those are the ones that'll get you where you want to go. And the good news is when you get there, you won't be alone. The second one, similar as far as philosophy to some degree, but it's more around the principle of 80-20, the Pareto principle, the Pareto's law, and how to spend time in a way that your outcome is as advantageous as possible. And the cool thing about that particular book is it doesn't just speak about business. It does. It touches on all kinds of different businesses, all kinds of different situations, but it also speaks to how to apply those principles to your life, to your relationships, to your family, to your friends, to everything, because it really is applicable everywhere.
Cool. Thank you. You have one message to share with construction professionals out there. What do you want to leave them with today?
That's a tough one. I don't know, man.
What's your banner? Okay, here's one. Picture this. Picture an airplane flying by. You know those airplanes that have those banners?
Saying
advertising.
Erica, will you marry me? That type of thing. I don't want to put that kind of banner out. My wife will kill me.
What do you want that banner to say? This is the message you're sharing with the world. What do you want that airplane's flying by to all those construction professionals in the offices, on the sites? What do you want it to say?
Imagine more.
Imagine more. Thank you. That's super cool. Super cool. 2 last questions. 1, insight to you. I want to know something that you haven't yet done in your life that you're looking forward to doing.
Monaco Grand Prix.
Cool. Monaco Grand Prix.
That's a big one.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
All right, last thought of the day. We're up to big things here, right? I appreciate you. I thank you for being part of the show. I thank you for coming to this environment. You know, thanks to the construction. I thanks Manny for having this set up. This has been beautiful for us. So, you know, as we grow, expand, we're up to big things here. The movements we started, the conversations we've started, the intentions we have is game changing and going to shift the way we've always thought about construction. So the question coming your way is, if you could nominate somebody to be on our show, who would you nominate?
I don't know. Again, these questions, man. Why are you saving from the end?
Anybody in the world, man. Anybody.
Anybody in the world.
Anybody in the world. This is talking possibility here.
You know who I think would be amazing? Just to meet, because what he's done in life, and I don't know enough to be able to say this with that much confidence, but from what I've read lately, it's been humbling and amazing to see. Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, here's a guy that goes from acting in, kids shows to up and down roller coaster of a career, and now you can't go anywhere without seeing his face. You're hearing about transactions and opportunities a part of with a B in it, and that's nothing to gawk at, man. This is a Canadian that had dreams and ambitions that I'm sure were high, but I don't know if they were that high. And to be able to be part of a conversation with the word billion in it, that's that's something to celebrate. That'd be a real cool opportunity to get into his head and learn about the roller coaster of a life that led him to where he is today and how he's dealing with all that. It'd be really cool.
Well, thanks for throwing that one out to the universe. That's the cool, fun stuff we're talking about. We've captured that name, and stand by for the day that occurs. So
it'd be amazing.
So thank you for making this possible. Thanks, Revalate. Thanks for everything you stand for. Thanks for being a part of our show.
Thanks for having me, man. This has been amazing.
This has been fun. So, Nick, humbled, honored, truly appreciate you. This has been great.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.